This is the industrial side. Most industrial businesses are either won or lost in the day-to-day operations. These are conversations with the operators who run these firms, talking about how they run them, what works, and what doesn't. All right. Jose Di Geronimo, how are you doing today?
Good. How you doing?
Very good, very good. Always good to see you, my friend. So you are the CEO of Amalga Composites. Today we're just going to go really deep on composite manufacturing. That's a topic that everybody has been Googling for the 500 days.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I've been at Amalga for what? A little over 3 years, a lot longer than that. But I'm excited to be here. So thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. So let's just start out with the basics. Like, what is it that you actually do and who do you do it for?
Yeah. The easy answer, but not very satisfying. We make tubes. We make composite tubes. And it could be for many companies. The way once I go into the details is, anything that could be underwater, underground, all the way to space, that's a structural tube for a system.
Okay.
So you can think now in industries, it could be any industry, automotive, oil and gas, aerospace and defense is big one these days. So anything in between industrials, paper and pulp industry. So they all, believe it or not, when you look around, there are more tubes and round things that you would expect them to be.
And the way I understand it, like the composite, like the structure of that is you're bringing a couple materials together. How does that work exactly? Like, what do you do specifically?
Yeah. So we specialize in one manufacturing process, which is called filament winding. But basically, composites is just when you combine different materials, right?
Mhm.
In this case, we use fiberglass or carbon fiber. Sometimes we use Kevlar, and then you mix it with a resin system, which is basically the glue that's gonna stick everything together, right? So the process itself, it's relatively simple when you look at it. The engineering behind it, it's really, I think, what makes it a very niche sector.
Got it.
Mhm.
No, that makes a lot of sense. How do you sell this though? Like, because I can't imagine, if I'm a larger manufacturer, where am I going to get the tubes for this for this product?
Yeah,
Let me just Google who shows up first. I mean, like, how does the sales process even work?
yeah. It's funny because I said, "What? This is year 4
Uh-huh.
of running the business." Every day, I keep asking that same question. You try to improve how to sell it, but because it really depends on what the industry is, right? At the end of the day, our customers tend to be someone either in an engineering team that's coming up with a new product or in purchasing. So typically, they're not going to be looking for tubes online. I
Yeah.
guess think about a defense contractor. They're not going to say, "I need a tube." They might say, "I need underwater vehicle hull. I need a launch tube." Right? So you have to kind of try and navigate what is my customer going to be asking so that when I'm go out there and selling, I can speak their language. Now, the channels of how to sell, it's all over the place. We do most of our work B2B.
Okay.
So we try to connect with, like I mentioned, just in folks or engineering teams that need our products. It's really tough to go to, a Fortune 500 company and say, "Hey, can I sell some tubes to you?" So you try to navigate, trade shows, warm introductions. Nowadays, of course, SEO or website is big one as well.
But it's interesting because I mean, it sounds generic. Oh, it's a tube, but like you're fitting into very like precision oriented like manufacturing processes. So like, how did these folks judge you? Like, what questions are they asking you when you get further in the process with them?
Yeah. So perfect example, we're doing more work in defense. It's an industry that's growing significantly. Composite materials are very well positioned for that industry. And when a potential customer comes to us, they really want to understand what are all the, value adds that you bring to that partnership. At the end of the day, your part might be a tube that goes on an airplane or on a satellite or whatever it is. So what kind of capabilities do you all have end to end, right? In engineering design and support, in prototyping, in testing, what type of machines do you have? How many machines, right? What other similar projects have you done in the past? How much capacity do you have? How much, who are you? They also try to understand, do you understand other ways that these products can be made, right? So it can get very technical in some of these conversations to the point where my background is in engineering and actually with our customers, even during introductions and understanding each other, we pull up a drawing, an engineering drawing, and talk about the details, right? So it gets to that level of detail for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and it sounds like the A&D space, aerospace and defense is kind of something that you've been going into recently. Like, what was that process like? Because I guess from what I understand is like there's really no stricter procurement process than aerospace and defense. So, what led you to want to do that, and like, how did it go?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure other industries, I'm sure medical has to have very high quality standards and the processes as well. The one thing when we acquired Amalga, the Amalga was already doing work in aerospace and defense. We're very well known for underwater vehicles, underwater autonomous vehicles. If you think for like surveillance and things like that, even for research purposes, right? So at least the company already had a foot on the door, which, believe it or not, that can make it easier. Now, growing in this space could be challenging if you think about defense products, typically for national security purposes. So it's really how do you build your reputation as a good manufacturer and partner in making sure that the products that you're making are on time with quality and that meet the requirements that, you know, the government needs. So that can be challenging because you do need to, here's a great product that we make for you today. How do you bridge the gap or how do you say, hey, can I also help with that other product? Sometimes it's not easy. So you have to work, surround yourself with, folks in different departments or try to connect with different folks in different departments, build a relationship. The sales cycles could be long for sure. And a new product development could take years in defense, and that's why you always want to be top of mind to a lot of these customers because as soon as a new project, a new program is in development, you want to be there.
Yeah. No, but and I would imagine though that like probably the highest margin thing to do would be to have like one process. Like we're just gonna merge this and this. It's gonna look exactly like this, and we're just gonna. It's just like an assembly line. This is exactly what we're doing. But when you're bringing on these new projects, there's different specs, there's different use cases. So I
Mm.
guess like how do you assess like whether or not it's worth it actually to go into some of these jobs?
There's is, I try to keep my passion for defense aside and you try to technically, it's up to me. We'll try to bring everything on board that's related to the industry. But
Yeah.
the you just look at our capability gaps. You try to go through a capability gap analysis. What is it that we're able to do today? What is it that the customer is asking for? You'll be surprised, but even for new programs, requirements have been defined for years and years. And sometimes working around those requirements is very challenging and very difficult and very expensive that even if you wanted to, it just makes it impossible for us to make some of these parts. Now, I think there have been some changes in the procurement process where we can figure out how to update some of these requirements to new processes to help speed up production, to make it easier in the procurement process. So for us, the evaluation is really going to be that gap analysis and then understand if we don't have what's needed, what is it going to really take to go from A to B to make the product that the customer wants. Now, we do have engineering capabilities in-house, which is very helpful because we don't just make a part that someone gives you. With our engineering team in-house, what we can do is work with our customers to figure out, hey, what's a design that could be manufactured for speed, quality, and cost that meets all the requirements that you have.
So what's an example, like, I don't know if you have, like, maybe some specs in mind of something recent, but, like, an example of, like, a capability gap, because I feel like it's a natural thing, especially, like, the entrepreneurial business owner to just be like, "We'll figure it out." Like, to say that we don't have the capability to do what you need, it almost feels crazy, but sometimes it's necessary to say that. So, like, how does that work?
Yeah. So, perfect example. I mean, we are working through several projects right now and new product development projects right now. And basically the process is, hey, someone comes to us and says, hey, I need to make this launch tubes. I need to make these underwater vehicles. Can you guys help us out? And immediately the first thing I say is yes. Right. So
Yeah.
that's that before I
It's just
even
natural.
That
Exactly. You can't-
like try to say yes with an asterisk instead. Like, let's look at all the drawings and the fonts. And the for our process, there are things that maybe it's a small investment that it's needed to make something work. Sometimes investments, although it might sound when they're describing the project that it's something that we can do, sometimes the investments is so significant that it becomes a challenge. Okay, how do we do it if we're going to need, $5-10 million of equipment to make the 20 parts that you need, right? So typically that's how we try to do the assessment. Sometimes also, it's natural. I'm an engineer. Engineering sometimes goes faster in development and new things that they want to try out. And then when you try to actually bring that new design into production, you come to kind of these roadblocks and bumps in the road of, hey, that design is great, but kind of manufacturing is not quite there yet to make that work. So is there something that we can tweak it to make it work in production? Now, aerospace and defense is a little bit different in other industries where there's a big push on, hey, how do we design for manufacturing so that we can go quickly into production, ramp up production. So we have been fortunate right now where it's easier to have the conversations of, hey, I know that design has been set up for decades. Are there any changes that we could do so that, if you want to ramp up production 5, 10, 20x within 12 months, it will be easier. So those are kind of the conversations that happen with our customers for sure. And, yeah, sometimes if there's a huge investment that needs to be done, sometimes you just have to figure out how to get the investment.
Yeah. But and then the other side of the other tension is like sometimes just having such a like great customer could be so meaningful, even though if the numbers might not make sense. For instance, you start doing business with the U.S. Air Force. It's a really good situation to be in. I'm biased a little bit as an airman myself, but yeah, I mean it's like okay, let's figure out how to do this. This customer's too important. You have to figure out how to do this. But do you separate kind of like maybe what you think about as like the brand building of having such a great customer versus the basically the margins and the profitability of a single project they're asking for?
I think absolutely, but I think we 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 have run into profitability, kind of that analysis that you just did
Yeah.
of, "Hey, maybe my profitability on this project is not going to be the same. But since I'm working with this customer and we all understand that, hey, the blended profitability is still good to build a relationship because there's a bigger project coming down the pipeline." Those type of conversations typically happen up front, maybe in other industries. When you talk about industries where, mission critical, life critical, if life could be a danger, typically what everyone's trying to do is, hey, what's the best design to make sure that safety is number one, right? Sometimes cost and price doesn't come up until we truly understand how do we make the product safe. Then let's talk about price. I mean, price is always going to be important, absolutely, but the first thing is going to be safety. Then we talk about price, and absolutely, if there is a need to say, hey, maybe in prototyping, that's typically where things happen, where you say, hey, we'll compromise some cost in prototyping to do a rapid prototyping, see if this is something that works. But typically the goal is, hey, is the part safe? Is the part good? And then everyone's is okay with pricing typically. It's also because you work so embedded and you're so transparent on when you're bidding on these projects, you're sharing quotes from suppliers. You're sharing how many hours you're going to spend designing something and how much those hours are going to cost. So you try to be as transparent as possible where price doesn't become too much of a problem, of course, unless it's outside the budget.
Yeah. No, and you mentioned quotes, and that makes sense based on how maybe specific these individual like product needs are. But like, is basically your sales process 100% direct? Like it's always maybe someone has a RFQ or RFP out for a specific vendor, and you're just kind of trying to prove that Amalga has the capabilities to do that for them.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of outside sales, right? So that whenever there is an RFQ or RFP, people know, hey, we need to also send it to Amalga, right? Unfortunately, there isn't a good centralized location where we can all sign up and everyone puts the RFPs and we can all get it. So it's still, hey, make sure that procurement person or that engineer knows about Amalga so that whenever something comes up, they send us the RFP, the RFQ. On the other side, reputation, I've mentioned reputation and credibility being important. What we have seen is that some folks, they might work at contractor A and then they go move to contractor B. Once that happens, they have had a good reputation with us or a good relationship with us where they say, hey, I'm now working for a different company. We have this type of product. Is this something that you guys can do? So there's a little bit of that of relationship building, but it's really direct. There are things with the government. There are ways where you can be, the government does put all these requests, these tenders online, right? So people can go in and bid on them. Where we are in the supply chain, we typically are not the ones bidding on those projects directly because it will typically be someone that's almost like integrating multiple systems. One of them being the structure of the tube that it's kind of core to the system itself, right? But there are ways for companies to do that directly with the government to go after that type of work.
So you're like a tier 2 or tier 3, something like that.
Yeah.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I mean, I guess that would make it pretty hard, though. I mean, like, I guess, like, in terms of, like, you're trying to build a pipeline, that makes it pretty hard when you have to be reactive to basically the bids that are put out there. Like, how do you try to forecast, oh, in 2027, we're gonna aim for this?
I feel like that's a great question. I feel like that's a great question because is those are the type of conversations I have all the time with our board.
Yeah.
It's, the type of business that we have, you're able to predict a certain amount of sales that you're going to have every month. But when you're thinking about the pipeline, it has to be a proactive process, right? You're basically managing all the projects that you have engaged in. You try to size each project and you do have communication with this engineering teams or the procurement teams fairly regularly where you try to gauge, okay, what are the chances that we might win it? What, has the opportunity size changed? Sometimes, unfortunately, things are outside your control. If there are three, four, or five people bidding on a government contract, it's possible that only one of them wins it, right? And there's just not much you can do. If the company or the customer that you're working with, they win it, it's 100%. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it could be challenging, right? So you have to be proactive at maintaining that pipeline, staying in touch with your customers, understanding if anything has changed. But I do think it's important to continuously grow the pipeline because, your hit rate is not necessarily going to be 100% because of those uncertainties and things that might be outside your control. And the way we do it is try to, hey, if it's in the pipeline, those are things that going back to how do you do the gap analysis? If it's in the pipeline is really something that we believe it's within our capabilities or within, a little bit of small investment to get us there. Right? We don't want to lie to ourselves saying, hey, we're going to win this huge contract when in reality it's something that's very outside of our capabilities.
Yeah, but I guess when you do win, like, how embedded do you become? Like, does that become a 3-5 year relationship, or is it maybe a little bit more like project based? Like, what happens once you do an RFQ, you do all the work, the gaps aren't really there, you can do what they need. Like, how deep does that relationship end up going?
I mean, the relationships go, continuously,
Yeah,
right? You build a really strong relationship up front because in some cases, with some customers, we have spent 1, 2 years working on product development where we meet every 2, 3 weeks, right? So you're already building that strong relationship up front. Typically, when you work 2, 3 years on a product means that it's going to be a product that's for an OEM that's going to last for a long time. So you maintain that relationship through that process going forward. Now the relationship changes a little bit. The people who are involved might change a little bit. You go from engineering, new product development into more like production and quality. And those relationships kind of stay there almost forever, right?
yeah,
From our side, we'll try to, hey, is there anything else that we can do for
yeah.
you? Hey, look, we've done a great job. Can we do more?
Yeah, no, I would imagine. I mean, like, yeah, like there could be some skepticism after an RFQ, but after you've worked together, maybe speaking every week or every 2 weeks to put together the right design and it works. I don't know
Right.
that I really have any incentive to find somebody else
That
because, like, you guys could do it, so why should I find anyone else?
it's one of the things that is good about Amalga and the niche that we're in is it is challenging to say, hey, let me pick up all this, everything that we have done and go somewhere else. But I think you also, one of our strengths is working with our customers, trying to understand what their problems are and help them find a solution to their problems. We don't just say, hey, give us a drawing and we'll make it. And now we're making it, you're stuck with us. You try to help them really figure out what's the best solution to our problems. And I do think, quality is going to be important, price is going to be important, but that partnership is very valuable.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think that's the give and take. Like being so specific and so bespoke makes it hard to sell, probably because you got to be willing to do whatever the hell the customer wants, which kind of makes it hard to really have a brand. But at the same time, once you've aligned yourself with that customer, you've kind of get to prove yourself in every way, and so there's a lot of like durability in that and in
Yeah.
those long term relationships.
Yeah.
In terms of the people you bring on, like what kind of like for the folks who are on the technical side, what kind of experience and qualifications do they need to be able to support the manufacturing part of this?
Yeah. So, if you think about our engineering team and then you think our production team, including also quality as an overall, I think for us it's important that people understand quality and safety is going to be everyone has to understand quality and safety. So that's something that we look for in everyone. When we think about on the technical aspect, in engineering, we typically have mechanical engineers that can help with the design of structures and modeling and things like that for our customers. Right now, we have two full-time mechanical engineers that are great and wonderful in composite materials. It's a much smaller industry than metals. So the amount of talent out there is not as much as with metal because it's very unique in how it's designed and the properties that you get on the materials. So we do try to make sure that it's either someone who already has experience in composites or someone who they're willing to learn about composites, right? And we try to make sure that they stay with us for a long time because we want them to learn about our quirks and things about specific about a manga, right? We want to retain that talent. And then on the manufacturing side, similar, there are not that many, what do we call them? Schools out there, trade schools that focus on composite materials. Our processes are somewhat automated compared to other composite processes, composite manufacturing processes, where someone, if they have a manufacturing inclination to production and they're willing to learn about composites, it's something that we can train them and coach them to be part of the team, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for people that join our team.
Has the business always had sort of automation built into the processes, or is that something that you've picked up recently?
So the machines themselves are somewhat automated. They have always been somewhat automated because it's just what the machine is doing is just wrapping a carbon fiber or fiberglass around a mandrel. There are steps that we're trying to take to help it be more automated, where the machine doesn't have to stop as much and things like
Yeah,
that. But it's always been somewhat automated.
got
Yeah.
it. So like just a general manufacturing background will be enough. The reason I ask is just because that's like finding talent, especially technically aware talent. It seems to be something that comes up a lot in different manufacturers. It's
Yeah.
just like people are, I guess they're trying to go work in
I
consulting and in law, and there's people working with their hands is becoming rarer and rarer.
it,
It's a
it
challenge a lot of folks have.
It is. I mean, even though we're located geographically, there's a lot of other manufacturing companies. We still find it challenging to find talent to bring on. It's gotten better in the last couple of years where our retention rate has also gone up. But, there are specific areas like CNC programming that has been a challenging job for us to hire folks. So there are areas where hiring does become a challenge because, like you said, not a lot of folks are going into kind of the trades.
And is that ever a challenge with projects? Like, is the salaries and the people kind of where you see margin leakage, or are there other things that kind of come into play when you have a new project?
I think, I don't know if it's about margin leakage, but when going back when you said
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, you say yes and sign up. That's one that, if talent is the one thing that we think we're missing for this project, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Right. We'll figure out who we have to get and where and like what we need to do. It is challenging, but it's one of those that I think if with the network you can overcome that challenge. But it is important, and it is one of the things that you have in this gap analysis that we do. One of them typically comes up is, well, what about this one aspect of manufacturing? Is that something that we can do? Right. And it's talent comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's probably not typical that, they're requesting maybe you need to add machinery or you need to maybe be able to bring in different materials that would be so expensive that it just wouldn't even make sense anymore. Like, that's not as common.
Yeah, and sometimes since we are in a specific niche, sometimes if a new machine is required, we try to offer solutions to the customer as like, hey, maybe we can partner with someone else that may have some
Yeah.
machines instead of really investing on $1 to $5 million in equipment again for the one part, right? When you look at the investment might not be good if it's only going to work for one part. So can we partner with someone else, or can we do? Sometimes it's changing just the design a little bit that would help us use a different machine. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So having those conversations with them.
And they're pretty open to that. They're pretty open to like we want to get the same end result as you, but like let's make it make sense for us. Pretty open.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, absolutely. Customers are always open to it again because it's just a conversation uh let's say between engineers and say, hey, is there something else that we can do? Sometimes, unfortunately, there's nothing that can really be done. Hey, that is critical for the design of the entire system. And if we change that, everything else is gonna have to change. Or sometimes it's more expensive to go change all the requirements than maybe an investment in some level of CapEx to make the part.
Got it. Oh, that
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense. I think now maybe we'll move into the semi therapy portion of this. So let's talk about the scars that you've kind of picked up running this company the last four
Yeah.
years. What are some
Yeah.
of the big ones that come to mind?
Well, we have that. It was my first job as a CEO running
Uh
a
huh.
company. So basically everything was new to me. Before Amalga, I was a consultant, and before that, I was an engineer. Different than running a business. You come in excited and, hey, here's all the growth that we're going to achieve. And, 10% of that growth is going to come in the first couple months when I joined the company. And then you get there and it's everything that you didn't know could happen happens from, in the HR part of things or even health personal things or stuff that you just find out that you didn't realize, right? So for us, just a quick on the three, it's like on the HR, we have had some incidents in the facility that when people think about it, it's like, so you're telling me that, people think it's okay to I don't know, bring alcohol into the building. Like we shut that down immediately, right? It's like, well, I just assume that that's, we have to be safe. Or you think on the personal side, as soon as I started at Amaga, unfortunately, I had some health issues and I had to be out for 2, 3, 4 months, something like that. So that just changes, your growth plan. It's just completely out of the
Wiped out.
you have to start from scratch and even small details. Hey, I thought that it was going to be easier to sell to customers. So how do I change my strategy? Or, hey, you forgot that, the company needs to be registered in all these different locations because you're doing business in all these different locations, right? So all of that, all of those things really what makes it difficult as a first time CEO to keep in mind, hey, what's the important thing? What are the things that we need to prioritize to grow the business, get it where we need to be? I think over time you learn how to manage that. I don't think the stress or the voice in your head changes that much. You're just able to tone it down a little bit as the time goes.
Got it. And how about just like working with customers? I mean, like I guess if you were to be able to somehow be the voice of reason in this industry and be like, this is the best way to work with your composite manufacturer. What are some things that you would point out like that would make the whole process easier?
I mean, personally, I didn't think I enjoyed sales as much as I do.
Really?
Yeah, so it's in part of it is because it's very technical sales. So the nerd inside of me is very excited to get on a phone call with someone and talk about their product. How is it going to work? How can we help you? Right? You're basically just having a conversation as to how can we help you? right? So that's something that I'm very happy that I realized that I enjoyed. I didn't know how that was going to happen. And then I think for customers is, like I mentioned, it really is a new, or it's a less understood type of material and manufacturing processes than metals that are very well understood. So it's almost like I know a lot of customers are highly trusting on what our team is telling them of how the
Yeah.
material work, things work. So there's that level of trust of like, hey, just so you know, I'm giving you this amount of work. I hope what you're telling me is true, right? So I think that open-mindedness of, hey, how do composites work? Is this really something that you guys can do? It's always helpful because they're trying to understand us, our processes, and we're trying to understand them. So that's, I think, what would make it most effective.
Got it. No, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I would have to imagine. I mean, because you're essentially an engineering partner along with your customers. It's not so much as we need to buy a widget. Do you have one? It's like
Yeah.
very, very specialized.
And
Trust is good.
sometimes we can do that too. You love those customers too because, hey, they love your product and they're saying, just give me more of that product, right? Of course, you want to make sure you maintain that relationship and see what else you can do for them, how you can help them. But yeah, we do spend a lot of engineering time designing products for our customers, for sure.
No, I'll get you out on this one, and I've really enjoyed this conversation. But I guess the last part would be, I mean, the audience is mostly, manufacturers, distributors, technical sales agents, trying to figure out how to be best supply chain partners for their customers. Is there any advice you would give on that end on how to just be a good supply chain partner to the folks you're working with?
I mean, what I've learned is um, and I think this is probably the same with many industries. Relationships are very important. Trust is very important. Unfortunately, I think we're all saying, "Hey, we have issues, we have gaps. Hey, we all want to grow." Right? But it's not easy, especially for smaller companies. How do we grow? What else can I do for you? So I think building strong relationships, whether it's, because we're here, and if you think about that almost like diagram, we're here, but you also have, sure, we have the suppliers that send us the materials, but we have customers that we send materials to, but we also have, folks that are doing quality audits for us, right? Or we send our products to someone else so that they can do testing or qualification on them. So like this whole thing, it's built around, in my opinion, trust and relationships so that even if there's something that I cannot do, I can tell, hey, this other person might be able to do it. And I know that customer is going to be happy. That's kind of the relationship that we have with our customers and even with our suppliers. If one of our suppliers, they know that they cannot get something for us, they're more than happy to tell us, hey, but go talk to this other supplier. They might have the solution for you. So I think that's really uh, the advice that I would give.
Got it. So, I mean, in some ways, it's like if you want to be one of the first calls, like your answer can't just be, I can do it or I can't do it. It's just like if you know folks who could do it in this situation, the customer obviously is still going to call you because you helped them get to the right direction versus a more transactional view of this isn't what we do. And then it just cuts it off. And now there's a little bit less kind of reason for them to want you to be one of their first calls when they have a new project or design scope.
I mean, you're really trying to help them find a solution to the problem they have, right? And I would gladly take hey, here's a first look, right? And then say, great, we might be able to do it. Or, hey, that's not really something that we could do, but I know you still need it. Let me put you in touch with some other folks that could potentially help you.
And have you had success, I guess, having maybe like less competitive relationships with other folks in the industry in terms of like, hey, if I can't do it, I'd love to give it to you. Like, is it more of like a collaborative industry like that, or does it just depend?
Yeah, so I think I want to believe that some of our competitors see us the same way we see them. There are areas where we compete, right? And there's definitely, but I think we all understand that if the composite manufacturing industry grows, we're all going to benefit. And it's such a small space today that if I know you can do something, right, that I could not do, I'd benefit from that customer buying from you because then they'll start using composites. They'll believe in composites, right? So we understand the gaps that each one of us have or the capabilities that each one of
Mhm.
us. I'm not gonna sit here and say that that's for every customer or
Right.
for every competitor, right? But there's definitely a handful of competitors that we have that we maintain that relationship of. Sometimes it's like, hey, look, you can make the part, I can do some additional machining or some other stuff for the part, and together we go with the proposal.
No, that's good. I mean, it's nice to believe that there's still a world where people can work together,
Yeah.
and just kinda get the best solution for the end customer. That's what gets you the most trust at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, thank you, Brad. Thank you for having me. If there's anything else that I can do, I'm always here to help.